Welcome to Blockchain Basement. On today's episode, we're going to again talk about more banks failing, Bitcoin pumping, ways you can profit, all this and more on today's episode of Blockchain Basement. Let's get it. Bum, 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 bum. You ready for this? I'm ready. Welcome.
If you're going to screw me, at least pull my hair.
Hell yeah. What do you got?
They could start chopping off fingers. They're like, give me your seed phrase, but I don't know it.
Out to give the numbers out. And I was like, no, hang up the phone right now.
Or like when it dropped in 2020, was it like exciting?
400,000 to 600,000. The generational signals are now
Level. So I don't even know if we're going to get back below there. But if we do, that's kind of where we...
All right, welcome into Blockchain Basement. Going to be a really good show for you guys today. I missed you guys. I hope you guys had some fun Thursday and Friday. I heard the Nictator himself was hosting, so glad you guys had a good time. Shout out to all of you guys in the chat, as well as we're going to be joined another, I don't think, is it first time guest?
Yeah.
Long time listener, first time caller. We got Hudson Hancock joining us here today, our COO. He's in charge of all sorts of things around here at Hit Network. The beautiful Allie Lee, or Allie B. And on the board, he'll be joining us here on the couch. The Druth is out there. Drew Wider. Look, show him that shirt. That's one of my all-time favorites from Hit Merch. I designed that one, by the way, guys.
I can't open my shirt too far.
Yeah, right.
Get your merch.
That's the TJ original. But of course, shout out to all of you guys, the Golden Jet, Anthony Eckler, Fluffy the Sheep, Crypto Killer Whale, WB, Crypto Stevo, K24, BMG TV, Nicodopolis, Justin Edwards, Boo Boo. We got Coverts, 3T4s, Rug Gang, Chemistry Bro. Chemistry Bro, the plot keeps thinking. I saw in the morning stream you said you lived in Singapore for 6 or 7 years. I think you said and your storyline is very intriguing to me.
I'm very interested.
Yeah, you must get around. You're definitely not a stranger to crypto. You got your dad meeting with the executives of Circle. You got UK based. You're a trader. You're a chemist. You're blowing up labs. You know, all sorts of stuff going on. Chemistry Bro. Is he actually Satoshi? We don't know. We got Manly Crypto, Manawak,
Shoots Girl.
Hey, Ninja Glock 1, Manly Crypto, all of you guys. Gonna be a good show today. All right, catch me. So for those of you who didn't know where I was, this was actually, well, we'll start with a little story time, fun story time. We were listening to Allie and I. We actually went to Jekyll Island over the weekend, and on the drive down there, we were listening to none other than the creature from Jekyll Island, which is all about the creation and the real charter of the Federal Reserve and what they, why it was created, how it facilitates the banking industry that we know today. And it was fun, really fascinating. Them talking about Aldridge, I want to say he was a senator from Rhode Island or governor that was in Congress in Washington back in the day. Kind of had this idea. This was in 1910. Got the 6 richest people in the world together,
They all came together,
all to meet in Jekyll Island. We were like, yeah, we're staying in some historic places. Should be kind of cool. Turns out it was the Jekyll Island Club is where we were saying it was the actual place that they did all that stuff. Go ahead.
I've been there before.
You have?
I have. It's really, really cool.
It was really cool. It was perfect timing too. Very fitting for everything going on.
Yeah.
Well, we walk in the door and right on the right, there's a door with like an old plaque that says Federal Reserve. And we're like, oh, I guess this is it.
Yeah.
TJ goes, I guess this is where they ruined all our lives.
Yeah.
And there was someone giving a tour and the tour guide started laughing. She thought that was funny.
Yeah, they have a little bit of a different take on history there than the way the book tells it. It's funny. You look up the book on Wikipedia, you look up the author and it's like, oh, writer of debunked conspiracy book, creature from Jekyll Island. And then you get there and you're like, well, this is all the stuff they were talking about in the book. Doesn't seem like a conspiracy to me. I think the main conspiracy is the intention behind the creation of the Federal Reserve rather than the way it played out. Basically the book is claiming it's working exactly as planned, and why it continues to happen over and over again. Economists, I guess people in the financial industry would lead you to believe, no, it's not. This is just an accident. They're doing the best they can. They really are there to help protect the people. We're going to talk about that a little bit today. We got the Fed over the weekend opening up more swap lines, creating more money out of thin air, which is basically the way the entire system operates, to keep banks open, to keep us moving in the right direction. And hey, lucky for us, that means Bitcoin pumps. So
yeah, isn't it a coincidence FedNow is set up right now? And that's literally what was happening over the weekend. The international swaps back and forth. That's FedNow. I mean, FedWire more specifically, but yeah, it's just. So
tell people real quick, for those of them that weren't paying attention over the weekend, what was happening with the swaps?
So basically, the U.S. and the Fed opened up swaps between 5 major NATO nations, so that they can interchange their foreign exchange, their foreign currencies, in for one another to avoid, the inflationary pressures that one or the other is having, and kind of equalize it. But then ultimately, it drives more buying pressure back towards the U.S. dollar. So the system is basically rolled out right as we see Credit Suisse get saved. We'll get into that later. Credit Suisse is a major player for international money. On top of it, you have right around 300 regional banks in the U.S. at risk of default or insolvency. So this system is rolled out in the perfect Hegelian dialect, where it's the thesis, antithesis, and solution, all rolled out and packaged into one deal that literally happened over the last 4 days. Mainstream public has no idea what's going on, and here we are. All of a sudden, instantaneous money by the day is available from the Fed. U.S. dollar continues its control, and the story cooks on.
And here we are. We keep kicking the can down the road. Crypto Steve says, I'm here for the Druth bombs. Not a coincidence. Oh, he also says Allison looking very pretty today.
Yeah. See,
he's glowing.
Thanks, Crypto Steve-O.
Also, Chemistry Bro said he lived there when he was 12 for his dad's job, moved him there, and then he moved back to UK when he was 19 for uni. So what does your dad do for work?
Job?
What does he do? Who obviously something that has to do with high-level banking people in some capacity.
International man of mystery.
Yeah, Singapore, obviously one of the more financially free countries in the world. We covered that on an earlier show, showed how financial freedom directly correlates to prosperity, I guess, or happy way of life. So real quick before we get, I see your question there. I see TJ, any thoughts on Apex Protocol delaying the release of Apex tokens for institutional investors by 12 months? I assume this is bullish from a S&D perspective. Yeah, I tend to agree. I do think that's bullish. You don't want too many hands getting into the big, too many tokens getting in the hands of big investors too early, or they'll dump the price past recovery. I'm sure that's part of that. So real quick, let's touch on the price here. We got Bitcoin coming in at 27.7 approximately, pulled back a little bit. It had pumped all the way up to 28.5, I believe, over the weekend. Ethereum at 17.57, a couple stable coins in there. Cardano pretending it's a stable coin, doesn't seem to want to move with everything else. I mean, it's frustrating. Everyone's like, why doesn't that dang thing move?
It feels like I'm watching grass grow, but I really believe in the ground on which it's coming out of. So
there you go. That's a good way to say it. You really believe in the soil, huh? You've been really taking care of that soil. So Matic doing well. We've covered a lot of what's coming for them. We've got the Arbitrum airdrop, I believe, coming on the 22nd or the 25th over in the next upcoming days. I don't know if I'm going to have a chance to cover it today, but we do have some threads on some Arbitrum based projects that could benefit from that airdrop. I know you got OP pulled up over here on Coin
I
Perspective.
did.
So.
I love doing moon math on OP.
Yeah, so let's see. What was it you were looking at?
Well, I compared OP, I believe, to Litecoin.
It looks like it's compared to Matic right here.
Let me see here. And these are comparing it, to its current Matic's current stat.
Right.
Status.
So if Optimism had Polygon's market cap of 10.3 billion, one OP would be worth $32.84 for an upside of 12x.
Yeah, and this is kind of where I'm thinking OP's potentials lie. I know it seems super bullish or whatever, but OP and Ethereum's use case is not going away. More and more institutions are open to using Ethereum. It's been very compliant and a good boy for the OFAC compliance regulations. So it's going to be rolled in to a lot of different larger infrastructures, and Polygon's hooked up with Starbucks and Meta, but OP is going to grab a large amount of these roll-up needs or this faster throughput need. It just looks like a bottleneck situation that's being solved by these roll-ups, and I really like having cryptos that have a use case or a reason for existence, not just a community, but like something that actually is fixed by their existence. So that's why I'm big on OP. I bought and sold Polygon previously, made some good money off of it, but now I'm looking for some things that are more aggressive on their potential upside. So yeah, I'm feeling OP, and obviously Arbitrum is doing some crazy things, so I expect more from that one.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. Obviously both of those, that's why we've covered them so much. Agree with that theory, that logic there. Oh, I forgot. I was going to say when I introduced Hudson, he's best known for his bongos on the original NFT Alpha, his live bongo performance.
That's a deep cut.
Yeah,
that's
one
a
of
deep
his
cut right there.
best clips of all time. Let me ask you this, because you're not native to crypto like a lot of us here. You've been learning since your time with the company, with the business. When you hear, or if you hear in your regular kind of day-to-day circles, conversations, there's a lot of people concerned, I would say alarmed about what's going on with the banks. Is any of that coming up in your day-to-day conversations as far as traditional banking system versus Bitcoin, and what is kind of what's some of the conversations you're hearing around that?
Yeah, I'd say the majority of conversations are between me and my wife. We're having a lot of talks right now about how even if we wanted to get out of our house, it would be very difficult to do that, just because the housing market's crazy and we can't. It's just really expensive to get into a home right now. So we're talking about that type of stuff, really practical. Here's the thing: when Bitcoin hit 25K, I actually cashed out all of my crypto. I don't know if that was a good decision or not. Obviously,
25K just recently.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, obviously it went up, but it was a good decision at the time. We used that money to pay off the van. So I'm a classic guy. You bought
a van with your crypto.
I drive a van.
Look at that. I bought a van with crypto too.
Yeah,
There you go.
did that too.
Yeah, it happens. It's important to do. I know what you're saying though. Expensive housing market. I don't know. When I look at that though, I'm still feeling like rural areas or places outside of suburban areas are still pretty affordable. It just adds a long drive. Like right now I have an hour, sometimes an hour and a half drive, but I like what I do. And it's calm time away from the children.
It is. It's good time for thinking, research, read. Like if you're an Audible person, that's when I read most of, hey, I'm TJ,
Right.
No, guys, that's not the first. I mean, it was
the
kind
Sienna
of the first.
is quite nice. I like the Sienna.
Yeah, I didn't have kids at the
These
time.
two have kids.
I also bought a 4Runner too, guys, for a future kid mobile. So hey,
there you go.
There you go. Let's not talk about my choices.
I will tell you this. I'm kind of into crypto, kind of not, but my wife is not like at all into crypto. And with a lot of the ways that the economy is going right now, she is a lot more open into getting into crypto. So
Is she
that
interested, or like she's not against it, I guess?
She's not against it, even though there are parts of her. She listens to a lot of Dave Ramsey, and he's not 100% like in or out. I guess he's more so like anti crypto for people who are in debt. Yeah. Which is a lot of people.
Yeah.
So that's his take. She likes listening to him, but in the last couple weeks, I can tell that it's kind of changing.
Really?
She's kind of changing a little bit on that.
Yeah, I'm torn on that. I know a lot of people that also put a really high value on what Dave Ramsey says. I kind of grew up on a lot of his teachings as far as don't, get out of debt. The debt snowball, I think, is a great strategy for people trying to get out of debt. That being said, a lot of his takes are very, it's tough to say dated, but they are a little bit dated at this point. They're very conservative. It's a system. He's sticking to it and it works. So he knows if you can get out of debt, a lot of other things good can happen after that. But he also said, somebody else kind of to the counterpoint said, he also says with extreme conviction that 99% of his viewing audience, 99% of the people that consume his products will never have more than $250,000. And to me, that's a little disheartening. Like you want the person who's giving you financial advice, and the number one financial educator, for retail, probably in this, at this time right now, saying that he doesn't believe his audience is ever going to get to true financial freedom.
True.
Little disheartening in my opinion, but I do agree with you want to get out of debt and then start buying assets.
That's like critical financial theory. That's like basically, in equivalence to what the other one is. I mean, that's like setting people up for the mindset that you are always going to stay below the line, that you don't have the ability to climb up and out of it. And that is aggravating to me because I was digging holes, running businesses and securing buildings and fighting homeless people for a very little amount of money.
Weren't we all?
Yeah. So like to hear that you can't crawl out of that position is aggravating to me because I've done it and I've seen it. And I try to explain it to my family how I did it. They have a lot of trust in traditional banking, but that's cool to hear that your wife is kind of opening up to it. Like I opened up, separate. I basically emptied out my bank accounts, like the 1% that they had control of. Still, I took that away even too, because that's how little faith I have in the system after watching this weekend's events.
Drew, I'm curious, what does your wife think?
She is the one that convinced me, like, not only did that encryption move from Duncan Lemp, that I've talked about previously, it's kind of a dark moment, but then also my wife just told me to put my whole ass, not half ass, on the line.
Nice.
On March 20th, 2020. I laid down on the bathroom floor and was just thinking about all the narratives that were being rolled out about thinking deeply about what the word non-essential meant and, thinking 10 years from now, how are my children and, my loved ones going to find value or, be propped up and be able to eat. So I took that non-essential verbiage very seriously and I put my whole ass on the line and I don't regret a hot second of it. So
I love that.
That's
Well,
awesome.
that's a really big part of it. Putting your money where your mouth is, you are exposed. There is some risk factor involved. You have to take big risks in order to get big rewards. And that's the one thing I'll say mostly about Dave Ramsey. He doesn't lean towards risk very heavily at all. It's mostly more conservative advice. And obviously crypto is extremely high risk. So I can see where there's a disconnect there between his traditional, what he preaches and, what crypto is really all about. Yeah. It is anti-banks in a lot of different ways. I would say Robert Kiyosaki is a little bit more same timeline, same theory on a lot of different things. But sees the value of a set supply like Bitcoin and go ahead, Drew.
Well, I don't know. Kiyosaki, like I love a lot of what he says, but then this debt-based perpetuation and teaching people to basically operate the same way as our modern monetary theory exists is ridiculous to me. Like I like buying things cash. If I put it on a loan, it's only just to up my credit score and clear it out the next month after that. I don't let things kill me by death by 1,000 cuts. That's what happens to people in financial situations like that, where they're taking loans out for their Xbox, taking loans out for food or school or anything like that.
Yikes.
Like that interest rate will crush you.
Yeah.
Is Kiyosaki kind of like the opposite of Dave Ramsey? Because he kind of says like you use debt for everything.
No, he is like it. He does lean heavy towards debt, and he's playing in a little bit of a different game. He's playing at that higher IQ, like, look, if you can't beat them, join them kind of mindset of like, look, it's a debt-based system. That's everything we were listening to with the way the Fed operates now. New value, new capital gets created when loans are taken out because all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they're able to create an asset and a liability on both sides of the ledger. And then boom, we're making money out of thin air. That's the way new money is created with the Federal Reserve System. It's all debt-based. So he's saying, look, if it's a debt-based system, you need to use debt to your advantage. He says, no, I don't buy liabilities with my debt. I only buy assets. Most people take on debt to buy liabilities, like what Drew was just mentioning. But if you don't understand how to, most people, I will say, don't have the financial discipline to manage debt effectively.
Yeah.
So far and away, you're better off operating. Most people are better off operating without debt and letting it work for you, not against you. But
That's fair.
It's two different mindsets on the same thing. So
Chemistry Bro says for tax reasons, because there's no tax on debt.
yes, he makes it clear there's no tax on debt. And and he uses real estate as his wheelhouse. So obviously there's a lot of tax advantages with real estate, specifically on mortgage debt and all that sort of stuff. So, if you're using it for the purpose that he is, acquiring businesses, acquiring more real estate, acquiring commercial real estate buildings, and you're making more money on that debt than you're ever actually having to put down, it's the game that a lot of the banks play. Like these banks that are acquiring all this debt, they're getting it at a severe discount. They're getting guarantees on the debt that they'll never actually have to pay it themselves. That's what the Fed is all about. That's what all these swaps are all about. It's like, hey, yeah, go make bad loans. They become assets on our ledger. And then as long as I can get a guarantee that I don't ever have to pay for it if the loan goes bad, it turns into a pure asset. So as long as I can keep people in these bad loans, in this bad debt, paying interest on it, I just collect money for free for the rest of my life. And if it ever goes bad, well, taxpayers are going to take care of it, or the government's going to take care of it, and I don't have to. That's literally the game the banks are playing. So, long story short, I'm also a believer in really almost never using debt unless there's a very clear path and reason for doing it. You sleep better at night. It's much easier to know you own everything and you don't have to worry about any debt. You don't have to worry about anybody coming for anything. So let's get into some of these stories, or we could talk about this all day.
Crypto Stevo said, breaking, President Biden issues first veto of presidency over attempt to change ESG rules.
Who cares?
What's ESG?
ESG is the energy, social.
It's environmental sustainability governance.
Governance. Yeah, it's basically the score they give businesses based on how.
I didn't know if it was a crypto thing.
No, how well they follow the federal government's rules. Recently, some of the biggest, I want to say, was it Van X CEO, or maybe one of the biggest hedge funds out there came out and said, we're not going to be listening to this ESG stuff when investing anymore. It's showing no returns on us, and everyone else is like, yeah, no kidding.
Even Larry Fink.
What?
Larry Fink too. From BlackRock.
Larry Fink. Maybe that's who said it. CEO of BlackRock.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a biggie.
Chemistry Bros said ESG equals funnel investments here, please.
Yes, exactly. Put your money here or else, and it's just a test on how they'll do everything in the future. It's all a big scam, just like most of the government. So
ESG was heavily involved with SVB investments, and that's what a lot of their losses came from, was ESG initiatives. So
there you go. And they're asking, are we expecting a huge bull trap? We're going to get into that. We got over 300 people watching right now, only 87 likes. Real quick, smash that like button for us so we can teach people about the banks. Boom, there it is. Thanks, Hudson. And we'll cover some of these stories because I've got like 50 tabs open. We haven't even started.
You did a lot this weekend.
So yeah, even when I'm not here, I'm always reading about crypto, guys. So Bitcoin is a clear winner of the U.S. banking crisis. I would agree with that. There are narratives around bank failure, stablecoins, interest rate hikes seem strong enough to propel the price of Bitcoin. Silicon Valley Bank failed on March 10th, and since then, the price of Bitcoin has been on a tear. Let's see. On the one hand, bank failures. Sure, SVB, Signature Valley Bank failed due to an old-fashioned bank run that was spurred on due to apparent weakness on its balance sheet because of poor duration risk management. And yes, Silvergate was running into some issues and had it to take an FHLB loan, but its eventual winding down was reportedly voluntary. And then Signature Bank, where even the regulators can't figure out if the bank was shut down because of crypto or because of a crisis of confidence in leadership. Signature Valley Bank, seemed to be just shut down because they wanted it to be shut down.
Yep.
Let's add on the fact that there are wider risks to the broader banking system. Credit Suisse received a 50 billion Swiss franc loan from the Swiss Central Bank. 11 banks just injected 30 billion into California base. This was another one we were talking about. First Republic Bank. It was a regional bank in California that basically needed $30 billion to save it.
No biggie.
Yeah, no big deal. Just $30 billion. The fact that kept blowing my mind that we shared, I think on Wednesday before I left, was that in 2008, 25 banks failed for a little bit over $300 billion. Just this past weekend, 2 banks failed for almost that same, I think it was the difference of like 320 billion to 309 billion, something like that. Just 2 banks failed with almost as much money as 25 banks had in 2008. So the problem isn't getting better. It's just getting bigger and worse. That all said, we know one thing that isn't causing these banks to fail. These banks aren't in trouble because of its bets on Bitcoin, crypto, or the companies in those industries. What appears to be happening is the fractional reserve banking system is under stress due to its rising interest rates and showing cracks. On the other hand, stablecoins were unsustainable. With the failure of Signature Bank, we saw US dollar stablecoin USDC lose its dollar peg the last weekend, regained its peg during the week, but the loss of the peg rightly spooked a lot of people. To USDC's credit, it's worth considering how rapid its recovery was back to $1. Yeah, it was only in potential danger 72 hours that they thought that the bank's money where they were holding all of that cash wasn't going to be backstopped by the government. When you found out, oh, okay, the government's going to pay the bill, or AKA we're going to pay the bill for this money that potentially just got lost. Thanks to the U.S. taxpayer yet again for covering the losses of a big bank.
We got you.
And if I had another hand, the U.S. Federal Reserve, it looks like we might have a suspension of interest rate hikes from the Federal Reserve. We're going to look at that a little bit more later. Obviously, that meeting is tomorrow, which would give the entire market a well-needed breather, especially as some, including myself, the writer of this story, view the failure of these banks as being closely tied to the rising of rates by a multiple of almost 20 over the last year. Yeah, well, when you raise from zero, it's not too hard. So,
kind of a pickle.
Yeah, they're definitely in a tough spot. I do think we're going to see. We're going to talk about. I'm just reading your comments. We're going to talk about the rate hikes here in just a second. So here's year-to-date performance for those of you that tell you Bitcoin is a scam, which I still see it in comments all day, every day. I still pose to them the challenge: show me a better place to put your money. Because I haven't seen it yet. Even in a bank thus far, we've got Bitcoin up almost 70% on the year, gold 9%, NASDAQ 15%, S&P 500 2%, TLT 5%. So here's Bitcoin here, clear winner there. Just thought it's, just good perspective. When in doubt, zoom out sort of thing. I thought this was another really good one.
Yeah.
Bitcoin 10-year performance. And you guys can see when we talk about this 4-year cycle, we're not making it up. I mean, this starts tracking in 2012. He could have tracked as early as 2010. And you would see green. You see basically 3 greens in a red almost every single time. So you got green in 2015, 2016, 2017, red in 2018, green 2019, 2020, 2021, red in 22. If we follow the same trend, we're seeing green in 23, 24, and in 25. So you guys have gotten through the hard part. But, just look at some of pull back to that real quick. Yeah. I mean, obviously 2013, 5,500% return for Bitcoin. 2017 is still 1,300% return. Again, 2021, 2020, not nearly as much as we've seen in the past. Mostly, I think.
Yes, I got the close up.
Excuse me.
Lord.
Yes.
I think a lot of that has to do with the shorting mechanisms that were available, futures markets, that sort of stuff that wasn't available in the past. So we're able to see people hedging and kind of controlling the price a little bit more. Either way, that's a compounded annual growth rate of 85% if by just buying and holding Bitcoin. Pretty incredible on any asset over this timeline. So yeah.
I mean, what if this collapse of banks changes that? You see how it's 5,500%, 1,300% on the next big move, and then a 300%. So obviously we're seeing diminished returns. We talk about that a lot, but now we have banks basically, in my opinion, they're collapsing into the lapse of cryptocurrency.
Yep.
They're collapsing. This is the perfect storm for our asset class as a whole. Like, I don't know. We have a different catalyst right now, and Bitcoin was created out of the 2007, 2008 collapse for this very reason. And yeah, I mean, some of our on and off ramps are being shut down, but that doesn't stop international development of this. Hong Kong and Taiwan and the Asias are building out payments infrastructures. We have, crypto-friendly nations that we'll probably see an influx of expats in 4 or 5 years if our regulations try to strangle us out of existence. This situation, I dare say, may produce what those people have been talking about as far as a super cycle, where the financial sector has nowhere else to go. And I mean, I know that in general, my thesis is that yes, we'll create another hallway to kick the can down. It's going to be fine. We'll be able to tokenize it and just gaslight everyone. But I mean, information has moved so strongly and social media has erupted. Now people can immediately pull their funds out. They can immediately give their opinion about things. This may be the catalyst that drives crypto well above like that. It might drive it into that 250 realm that you've been talking about. Just from our own failure in our own financial sector. It's not a scary thing to think about, but I don't like to do too heavy of moon math. But the situation is setting up for them to literally have nowhere else to go, and so. I don't know. It makes me excited.
I tend to agree. I think we do have a potential for somewhat, you call it a super cycle. You can call it two blow off tops in one cycle, basically, where I do think for sure it's going to be the end of diminishing returns. I do see us getting up over 200K. I agree with everything you just said, that right now the path is looking more and more stable for people to exit the banks and feel like they have a safe place to put their funds. We've done it time and time again. It really only takes 1 to 2% of most of the wealth in the world to send Bitcoin to just ridiculous numbers past the market cap of gold. So I think this could be the cycle where we start to see sovereign nations, sovereign individuals, people that storing their wealth in a place that's not a promise from another government that's important to them. We start to see that happening this cycle, which if we see it even in the smallest percentage, 1 to 2%, that will send us to an insane level of highs for Bitcoin.
I have a question from Husker Dan.
Husker Dan.
What Bitcoin price movement would you expect if the Fed doesn't change rates?
If they don't, if they don't change rates, meaning like if they hold.
Yeah.
If they don't
that's
raise.
what it means. Yeah.
I mean, it'd be bullish for sure. I was going to come around and ask what you guys think at this point. We have some Fed stories in here. I think that they will still raise it at 0.25, just because now they've got this back, they've got these Fed lines open where they know, okay, hey, even if things get bad, we can create more right here out of thin air and keep you guys going. If they don't raise the rates, I think it'll be pretty bullish. I think we could easily move into the 30, well into the 30, if we're say we're still sitting at 28 tomorrow. I think a lot of people are waiting and watching to see what's going to happen. We're going to cover those stories in a minute. They're all over the place on if we raise, if we don't raise. If we don't raise and we hold, you could assume that we're going to hold probably for the next few months and then start cutting this year. And if that's the case, I mean, golly, again, we could see mid 30s by the end of this week. Once we blast through 30, we could see 35 this week. I still tend to think they're gonna raise it 0.25, which will pull us back a little bit more. But I know that's not the popular opinion. I'll tell you that much. That's not. People are begging for them to stop cutting rates at this point. What's your gut, Drew, on that? No, you think they will cut or hold?
I think he's going to turn into a big old pussycat and not. I don't think he's going to raise, but they might save face with another 25 base points and then do no raise next month. Because they probably in general have to hit that 5% funding rate at the least, right? Like I know the narrative switched to, we're going to 6% and stuff. Now they might have to hold on to that original 5% target for the Fed funding rate. So if they do raise it by 25 base points, I'd see basically a pullback in Bitcoin, a calming down to the 25K level, like 25.2 I think is where it was. But if they don't, that would be a quick whipsaw to 35, in my opinion. Like there's a lot of room above our heads right now from following Frankie and his volume gap stuff. Like there's a lot of room to run if we have the path cleared for us and there's no rate hikes coming in the indefinite future. That would be insanely bullish for risk assets.
Well, and you can go check if you want to know what the charts are going to do in the future, go look at what they did in the past. So the levels we fell to and held at on the way down in 2022, generally speaking, will be the resistances we have to break this year, next year, whenever we get up to them. So we know, obviously, we held in that 40K range for a little while. And then as soon as we fell beyond 40, it was like a free fall down to like 30, 32. It maybe stayed there for a little bit, between 28 and 32 for a brief moment. And then again, free fell all the way to 20. And then from 20 all the way down to 16 and change. So we could see, very quick move back up from 16 and change into that 20 range, held that range for a little while, and then boom, made that jump all the way up to 28K, due to the volume profile and a lot of the gaps there in the volume. So you can see that very similarly on the way up. I tend to agree if they don't raise rates, they're kind of saying, yep, the whole system's broken, but we're going to just keep pretending that it's not. And it's going to be hard to know where things are going to go from there because you know, that if we start printing, stop raising, we could get into the world of hyperinflation much sooner than they would like.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, which is part of, I mean, we I don't know if we're going to talk about it today or not, but there's that that guy out there saying Bitcoin's going to be at $1 million, and he's not a nobody by in 90 days, which just seems absolutely insane to me. It's crazy. Yeah, CT goes, the sentiment on crypto Twitter goes from we're all going to zero to it's going to $1 million real quick.
That's crazy.
Yeah, just a matter of a couple $1,000 difference. But let's see.
Super chat from Quentin Raiders 96. Next safest investment after Bitcoin and ETH. Is it ADA and Litecoin? ADA back to all-time high is 10x from here. Every $100 would be a 1,000 return.
Next best after Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I guess you mean crypto. You don't mean real estate, so that's always my other good answer. I like real estate. Litecoin, pretty.
I think you can say whatever. He said, is it ADA and Litecoin? I mean,
to me, beyond Bitcoin and Ethereum, it's real estate, in my opinion. You know, I'm using the Bitcoin and Ethereum to speculate, and then real estate is kind of where I keep, it's another great store of value. Look, if you want another safe one right now for this next run, I don't mind Matic, number 8, Polygon sitting there. Yeah, I mean, Cardano, I don't want to. I mean,
What about BNB?
BNB is another great one. Great pick sitting there at number 4. Has a lot of ecosystem around it, a lot of money behind it. It's definitely not going to fail anytime
He's
soon.
had a lot of attempts at taking him out with FUD campaigns and all that stuff, and CZ is still acting feisty. So
yep.
Yeah, I mean, Cardano, look, I don't want to say Cardano's a bad pick. I do think you'll get great returns on it in the next run. I just don't love it as much as I once did. I've got a lot in Cardano, which is why, and I haven't really taken a lot of profits, which is why I'm not putting more profits into it. I would just keep stacking Bitcoin, you know, for me personally.
What do you think, Hudson?
I mean, I'd probably go with Cardano just because my friends Justin and DZ are really hype on Cardano when it comes to NFTs. So probably would go with that just because I know of it. But again, I'm a noob. And so when I look at those, I just honestly, I gravitate towards the one that I know more, which is Cardano.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Chemistry Bro mentioned FTM's been killing it. It has. It's one I've kind of had on my watch list for a while. It's tough with these smart contract platforms. You just kind of have to get in and see where A, money flows, B, you know, ecosystem starts to show up, whether it's decentralized exchanges, DeFi applications, games, those sorts of things. And you know, again, that's starting to happen on Cardano. It's starting to happen on DOT, FTM, Cosmos, a lot of those. Litecoin, to me, you'll get some decent returns on it. When Bitcoin pumps, Litecoin usually pumps as well. There's just nothing new going on with it. So it's safe in the sense that it's fairly accepted. But there's really nothing exciting to me about it. It used to be the faster send Bitcoin, but now Bitcoin can do that through Lightning Network. Not a lot of development going on with Litecoin. So that one doesn't really do much for me. But yeah, there's a lot of options there. Yeah. So real quick, it says, you know, from Alex Gladstein, future students will be astonished by this historical moment where major world powers save primarily in IOUs of the biggest world power. It's just strange and fraught thing for a nation to try to protect its time and energy and future in a foreign promise. He's referring to other nations basically storing their value, storing their wealth, storing their future in the US dollar that can be debased at any time.
Yep.
And so right now it's been the way things have gone, so people aren't really pushing back against it. Now there is another option, and we're starting to see people say, wait a minute, think about it, and keep going. CZ, in a similar mindset, says every decade or so, the same banks fail. We keep them alive, then repeat, more costly each time. Meanwhile, it's incredibly difficult for new banks, in parentheses, to be approved, to enter the market to compete. New banks are also required to operate in exactly the same way as the old failing ones. How is this a free market? This is I just pulled that up because this is exactly what the creature from Jekyll Island highlights. Basically, back in 1910, there was all sorts of different banks. There was all sorts of different competition going on, and more of the money supply was moving into these smaller banks that were being conservative, making good loans, not having defaults, not having bank runs. There was bank runs all the time. They said, look, how can we stop these bank runs? We need to basically consolidate all of this stuff, add a backstop in place, but we don't want the backstop to come out of our dollars, our shareholder pockets, our actual money. We need to be able to pass on these liabilities to a government, anybody other than us. Well, then the Fed came in, and that's basically what it's done almost perfectly to this point where anytime there's been a problem, and there's been a lot over the years, basically what happens is they have what they call a merger, or it gets purchased, or it gets nationalized, whether it's an airline, whether it's a business. They go through tons of examples. Lockheed Martin, they come in and pitch Congress, oh, it would be terrible for all of your citizens if this business was to go under. We need the government to step in, save this business, aka buy all the bad debt and put it on your balance sheet. Let you pay all the debt that we know is never going to get paid back, so we keep those interest payments rolling. And that's the system that we've been operating in. But what happens, it just snowballs and gets bigger and bigger and bigger each time. That's what Eric Voorhees is talking about here. He says, I love how he's talking about Credit Suisse. For those of you who don't know, Credit Suisse been in big trouble for a long time. It's over in in Switzerland, basically. Another huge bank.
I think the best thing about their problem is that they blame their problems on social media.
Yeah, I saw Razmataz
You
said
guys
that
shouldn't
earlier.
talk about
Is
their
that for real?
problems. Yeah, he really said that.
No, they really do. Yeah, they say, oh, because basically information can travel so much faster now. People can whip people up into a frenzy and scare them because of social media. No, it's because of bad management. If they know you're going to get bailed out, maybe it's all by design. But he says, I love how they frame it as merger agreement instead of desperate fire sale, which required the rewriting of Swiss law to prevent global financial catastrophe. Basically they entered into a merger agreement with UBS, another bank, and
everything's fine.
Yeah, everything's fine. Don't worry about it. They also didn't allow the members of the board had no say in this merger whatsoever, so they didn't even get a chance to vote on it. The actual shareholders and owners of the businesses, like, no, guys, don't worry about this. We're going to take care of this. It's all for the greater good. Don't ask questions.
Why would they do that? Why would they let other people speak on their behalf?
Right. Why would they let people vote over the thing that they supposedly control and have ownership over?
Yeah. Let them eat cake.
Yeah. It's all just a farce, guys. It's all to make you feel like you're important until you realize they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And if you don't let them do whatever they want, the whole system comes crashing down. Isn't that crazy how that works?
It's your fault.
Yeah, it's your fault. Don't stand in the way of, people eating their
I'm sorry.
whatever they eat in Switzerland.
So you brought up eating. Why are you not eating your? Why aren't you eating your coleslaw?
I have been eating. I've just been
Eat your coleslaw, TJ. Come on.
It's chicken salad, guys.
Everyone,
it's not coleslaw.
I speak for everyone else. Eat your chicken salad.
There's my chicken
Hey,
salad.
I have a comment while you're eating. Chemistry Bro said, my dad has been working on the digital backends of banking since the late 80s, really. Worked for multiple banks. He got into a lot of cloud computing, data center stuff too, which is what took him to Singapore, working for SAP KPMG. He became a bit of an all-rounder with cloud services / data centers / fintech stuff, and now his title is Solutions Architect. He has been involved in crypto stuff more and more in recent years.
Yeah.
He also has security clearance, I guess, in the UK, too, he mentioned later.
That's pretty cool.
Super fancy.
Big shout out to obviously, look, he's been dealing with fintech, which is financial technology, for years and years, and now crypto more and more. That just goes to show you crypto is trending into the mainstream. This is not something that's going to go away. If people tell you that, they either don't know what they're talking about or they're just straight up lying to you. This is something worth understanding, worth investing your time, effort, and energy into, because it will shape the way the world transacts in the future. So get on board or get left behind, but you can't just sit here and call it a scam over and over and over, or people are going to start to see through that when they talk to you and realize you just don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Very few people that I interact with right now that tell me crypto or Bitcoin is a scam know anything at all about anything that's been happening with Bitcoin or crypto over the past, I don't know, 5-10 years.
That's why I like to start with, helping people understand what the actual financial system is to begin with. Like, where did money come from? Why do you care about money? Why are you even interested in crypto to make more money? What's the point of money? Where did it come from? How does our government create more of it? What types of situations need to happen for us to create more of it, i.e. crises or war? And then you get to help them understand the rate of inflation that they're experiencing. Then it starts to click, oh, wait, the bread's $1 more this week. Wait a minute. And it was $1 more the week before that. Okay. Things have doubled on me all of a sudden. They start paying attention to the world around them. I don't know. It's just that's the easiest way to do it. And then they can start to understand the value of crypto, why there's a finite resource. Like if they don't understand the ground on which they walk, then there's no reason to tell them, you know, how to grow food out of it. Like,
Good
in my
point.
opinion. So.
All right. So I have a question. Just in your opinion, how long until I can go to the grocery store and I can use my crypto to get my groceries? How long?
Today, like
You can do that right now.
Yeah,
How?
I get a Coinbase
Use a
card.
card.
Yeah, there's
A Coinbase card.
It
That's
has
it.
a chip, and you just literally
Is it going to do like a transaction?
Yes,
fee
automatically. No,
To
No.
like turn it from the crypto to the USD
No.
to pay, or
No, you'll have to have some of it probably sitting in USDC, or
Okay.
or it can
That's-
automatically make that swap for you, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I have on my Coinbase card. I can select if it wants to pull from my ICP bag or if it wants to pull from my USD bag, USDC bag. So it's literally already available.
Yeah, Bybit made a Mastercard. There's a lot of Cash App is another one that has their own
Yeah.
card that you
Okay.
can use different things with. So yeah, Visa and Mastercard have not slept on this because they see where things are going, and they
Right.
basically anywhere that a Visa or Mastercard is accepted, you can use your crypto to buy and sell and transact. And they also, I know Verifone, which if you don't look at these things, you don't necessarily. I think it's VERI. I think it's phone like FONE. Those are the kiosk systems, the little point of purchase kiosk systems that you see all over the world at convenience stores.
Right.
They have upgraded to allow Bitcoin Lightning transactions happening with it. I know that was the big announcement coming, and I don't know if it's where it's rolled out or I think they're doing pilot test programs right now. But yeah, there's a lot of places you can actually spend it. I still feel like, especially where we're at in the market right now, it's best to be accumulating it.
Yeah.
But come 2025, you're going to want to be spending it as much as you can. And that's what I continue to tell people, like where we are today
Smart.
is way easier to use, way easier to store, way easier to transact with than it's ever been in my experience with crypto, because it's continually just gets better and better and better. And the need for it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. So there's less risk now. There's as much, if not more, upside than there ever has been. And, like I said, in a better user experience, which all of those things coming together with people's understanding and knowledge and education rising as well. It's a perfect storm for a super cycle for Bitcoin, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
I love the cards too for just doing that live in-person teaching of literally like, hey, this is a crypto card and watch this, and I'll buy something with it. So I'd much rather spend fiat, but I will spend a few transactions just showing the public what is going on. It's already here.
It is possible. At
You
least.
mock me, but
It's
this
happening.
was made
Yeah.
overnight from a pump. So enjoy.
Yeah.
White Girl Probs asks, do you think a crypto alliance could form their own FDIC program, or is that too centralized for the space?
I do think it's a bit centralized for the space. They kind more or less like proof of reserves kind of is that in a lot of different ways, showing that they have the reserve. They're all crypto exchanges are supposed to be backed 1-to-1 anyway. You shouldn't need any FDIC. Basically, FDIC is just something created to make people feel more comfortable that some of their deposits are covered when really none of them are there. So again, that's a bunch of smoke and mirrors to begin with. If you have proof of reserves, everything's backed 1-to-1. There should be no need for insurance for unbacked deposits because all the deposits should be there. So I think it should operate more like a free market where if there's lack of confidence in an institution, people should withdraw all their money. There's I forget what the date is. There's a proof of keys day in crypto where everybody says, hey, we're going to withdraw everything we have on an exchange, even just for one day, just to keep the exchanges honest, to show that we want to make sure everything's backed 1-to-1. So I do know, feel confident Binance is backed 1-to-1. Coinbase is supposed to be backed 1-to-1. They've got things that show that much better backing than banks. Banks are not designed to back everything 1-to-1, which is why they need something like FDIC, because their whole game is predicated on people having confidence that they shouldn't need to withdraw their money.
That's so scary.
Yeah, it is
It
scary.
should
As
be.
that
So
confidence
freaky.
gets shaky,
Yeah.
that's when they have the need to panic and create this money overnight because people are starting to withdraw. So in crypto, we're far and away ahead of that, as just as it stands on principle, on theory, on operation. In reality, we're in a much safer place having things backed 1-to-1 than any bank system ever has been, which is what makes it so ironic when they try to blame crypto for the problem that fractional reserve banking is actually what created this problem. And it's getting worse and worse. It's not getting better because they just keep running the same system. And if you keep running the same system, it's going to break eventually. So
Crypto Steva said, I use my crypto.com debit card at the grocery store and gas station all the time. 4.75% back on Crow coins.
Yeah. Get money back on. I mean, I know the guys, Taco uses the US, the Coinbase card all the time with USDC. I know DZ uses it a lot. Like I said, Cash App is one I'm familiar with, is great. You can use Bitcoin with it. You can use dollars with it. There's plenty.
Can you use that for mortgage and car payments?
The Cash App one? I've never tried.
Any of these cards.
You should be able to. Yeah, anywhere a card is accepted. I mean, they do have limits. So you need to look into withdrawal limits and all that sort of stuff. When you start getting into, if you park all of your expenses on it, you might run into some monthly spending limits or something like that. But, Apple Pay, they have their own card that you can use, and they have, you can hold crypto within your Apple wallet now. So all of these things are moving that direction. Samsung Pay, another one of them. So payments are already digital. The dollar is already digital for anybody who tells you it's not. It just shows that they don't understand the way things operate. So this is just another form of separation of digital assets where you can actually have control over it instead of having a government control it or a bank control it. You actually can control it yourself, which that is where the magic is. And a lot of people don't understand about where and why and how, but once it clicks, usually when, if you had a lot of money in Silicon Valley Bank, all of a sudden it clicked for you over this past 2 weekends. Like, oh, wait a minute. That doesn't sound good. I want my money. I want it now. And they're telling me I may or may not get it. Where can I put it that I know it's going to be there when I want it? So we got this guy talking about this, the irony, a lot of Bitcoiners taking a victory lap over this Credit Suisse.
You got to.
Yeah, because the CEO of Credit Suisse said Bitcoin is a bubble back when Bitcoin was $7,000. Bitcoin is now $28,000. Meanwhile, Credit Suisse is getting acquired by a competitor and being bailed out by central banks. So here's the article right here, November 2nd, 2017. He's skeptical about Bitcoin being a bubble. This was also like right before a huge run up in the price.
Didn't age well.
Scoreboard, guys. Scoreboard. It's going better and better for Bitcoin. It's going worse and worse for banks.
I loved the day in crypto section of the live stream today because it was like totally the day I FOMO'd, like just went head over heels into crypto March 20th, 2020. Just looking back at that headline of, cashless society and, there's no more need for cash and, we're not going to be accepting cash. And paired with the non-essential narrative, man, that just absolutely bought me all in.
Crypto O says poker will reach a new level in Web3. I tend to agree. Online, when you can have provable odds, provable fairness and all that sort of stuff, I do think that's going to start getting better and better as blockchain starts to roll out. I do think a lot of those type of websites will be kind of the first iteration of blockchain gaming that really takes off, in my opinion. Let's see. Fed, ECB, and others take coordinated steps to boost dollar liquidity. Bitcoin tops 28K. So the big move aimed at avoiding a March 2020-like global dash for cash. This is what Drew was just talking about. Investors sell everything, including Bitcoin, for the U.S. dollar. U.S. Federal Reserve on Sunday, this is just yesterday, announced that it had joined hands with other major central banks to ensure a steady flow of the U.S. dollar, the dominant reserve currency in the global financial system. So guys, just... obviously we've talked about it on the show before, the Fed, the number one central bank in the world, the Federal Reserve. There's also European Central Bank, the Bank of Japan, the Bank of England, the Bank of Canada, and the Swiss National Bank. All of them joined together going from weekly to daily, starting on Monday. Starting today, they're going to have daily dollar swap lines, allowing forward central banks to borrow U.S. dollars while protecting the Fed from downside risks in a swap. A foreign central bank swaps its own currency for an equivalent amount of U.S. dollars from the Fed at that market exchange rate. So again, we know most of the world's money is in dollars. We know we raised the interest rate on those dollars dramatically, which puts pressure on banks. We know banks are seeing withdrawal requests now. And so what does it do? It puts the United States back into the position of power where governments all around the world now have to print their fake money and exchange it for our fake money. So, okay, you devalue your currency first. Great. Then we're going to exchange it for our currency, which, it devalues our currency, but you guys had to devalue yours more, which is what we want. Okay. And then we all experience inflation together, but we're able to keep this banking Ponzi going. We said it was only a matter of time when Bank of Japan started printing, when the People's Bank of China started printing, before the EU Canada, basically Western nations had to get on board with creating more currency themselves. They can't allow somebody else to create more of their currency, use it to buy up all the real stuff while we're stuck in this holding pattern. So I do think that this play right here that, you know, and again, I don't know if it says it in here, the dollar swap lines allow foreign banks to borrow for equivalent amount of ESC. It comes on the heels of blowups of 3 banks in the United States and the takeover of troubled Swiss lender Credit Suisse by UBS and the Swiss National Bank. It shows heightened financial stability concerns among policymakers and questions Fed's ability to continue hiking rates. This is it right here. Basically, the Fed knows they need to continue to raise rates in order to get inflation under control, but they couldn't do it and break the banks. I think this move will allow them to continue to raise the rates just a little bit more, hold the current system together and calm people's fears. Like, you don't need to withdraw all your money. Please don't withdraw all your money. We really need you not to withdraw all your money without having to say it too many times. In other words, the increased frequency of swap lines has cleared the way for an unabated risk or unabated rise in risk assets, including Bitcoin. The leading cryptocurrency by market value is largely seen as a hedge against the banking system and hit a 9-month high above 28,000 late Sunday. I mean, so you can see here's the look at this. Here's the rate hike, and then whoop, here's the pump right after it. I mean, you can see also what this is 2020 here.
That's a 08
that's
crash.
08
Yeah.
here, and then we went from there, and then they did it again in 2020, and then boom. And so it does show there's a lag time to this. Like this is in March of 2020 when they were creating all that currency and printing all that money. I'm like, oh, this is gonna pump tomorrow. And it took a couple of years for all of this to play out, but this does bode well again for the 24-25 cycle. Don't see it changing much. Dollar liquidity swap lines opened up on March 19th. BTC kicked off its rally from that point. By the way, there was hardly any correction from the euro dollar futures. It was totally spurious, but good
That's
to
an
get
interesting
some
word.
cogs turning. Yeah, that is
I like that
interesting.
word.
I got spurious one time.
Yeah, so here's another breakdown of kind of what happened, you know, quickly. The Fed and 5 central banks have just announced enhanced liquidity via US dollar swap lines. The other 5 central banks are the Bank of England, Bank of Canada, which I just covered, European Central Bank, Swiss National Bank, Bank of Japan. Swap line operations with the Fed will now be daily instead of weekly. Again, this just shows how fragile everything is. They're going to be trying to cover their butts daily with this stuff. Distressed banks can now get liquidity, aka more dollars, from the Fed every banking day.
Overnight.
Basically, anytime that they're open, they can get money from the Fed. Anytime their margins are getting too thin, like, oh, quick, we need some of that emergency money so we don't have to liquidate this position that would put us in the red.
Dude.
Which is basically what a free market should be. The result is balance sheet expansion, billions, if not trillions of liquidity incoming in short and medium term. Again, that's great for all of us, risk assets and everything there.
Yeah.
It's good for Bitcoin. It's good for the Bitcoin cycle. It's hard to predict these sorts of things unless you kind of see the trend that we've been in for a while. Most Bitcoin maximalists will say, well, we've been predicting this the whole time. This is why Bitcoin exists. It is not a surprise to many financial economists and people that believe in the financial system. They just can't believe this is happening again. How have we gotten ourselves into this situation? It's been happening the entire time since the Federal Reserve was ever created. So we're just back here again.
I have a question from Olarmy03. Who would you use as your bank, in parentheses, direct deposit, etc., if you wanted to get completely away from traditional banking?
You could use me.
Who would you use as your bank if you wanted to get completely away from it?
Yeah.
I mean, gold. Go to gold, man.
For direct
Pawn
deposit.
shops.
You talk a lot
etc.
about
Oh, so to get... Okay, so I mean, you could use, if you needed a bank, basically a place for direct deposit, something like that. I mean, you could use crypto exchanges. They are similar to a bank. They do have, you know, there's some form of third party trust involved there, but you could use Coinbase, Gemini. You could use a variety of those, Kraken, if you're here in the United States, to take your deposits in that way. You could then convert it to Bitcoin and transfer out to whatever wallet you want. You could use a variety of the different cards we talked about to buy and sell within crypto. You know, BitPay is another one that works very well. You could probably convert from an individual wallet into that sort of thing. But if you need a place that can take direct deposits, ACH, that sort of stuff, Gemini, Coinbase, Kraken, all should be able to do that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if Apple Pay can. I know I'm pretty sure you can get your direct deposit into Apple Pay if you're getting direct deposit from your employer. I don't know if you can do wires, ACH payments, that sort of stuff. But there, I mean, there you go. You can use any of those exchanges. I think they all have cards attached to them that you can use now. I do like Kraken as they are moving towards being a true bank.
They're going to start their own bank soon, right?
And I like that. You know, like that's what you're going to need from a crypto exchange in the future. As we're seeing more and more chokes put on traditional, crypto friendly banks like Signature Bank. So Revolut's an online bank. They're not. They are there. We've messed with Revolut some in the past. There's a lot of restrictions on how to pay, who you pay, when you pay, checks, that sort of stuff. So there is still, it's not a seamless process. There is no one size fits all solution if you want to go pure crypto and completely exit the banking system. For most people, I would say you can use the local credit union for some of your operating stuff and then just get as much out as you possibly can. Or you could use one of the big four that you don't feel there's any, like, look, if Bank of America goes under, which is one of the ones I use, the whole system's going down. So, that's when it's time to stock up on lead and whatever you had in that bank account, just, like, you're going to be fighting for your life at that point. So don't worry about a little bit of dollars.
Okay.
No, I'm serious. You'll be fighting for food and stuff.
No, it's true.
If those big banks go under, I mean, and we're in, real depression-like scenario, I don't think this world, the people that live in the U.S. today are not ready for a world like that. That is for sure.
Dude, what's going to happen to the $2 quadrillion derivatives market that...
Great question.
There's $2 quadrillion that are all just floating smoke and mirrors right now on our markets. And now that people have had that front end kind of, oh my God, the banking sector might actually collapse if they don't save at night or overnight. Now, what are those derivatives managers going to be thinking? Are they going to think to allocate maybe 1 or 2% into a risky asset class like Bitcoin that's going opposite direction of where their traditional stocks are going? Just a thought.
Yeah, that is an interesting thought. I mean, it'll be interesting to see where things go. This is another point that I feel like is important to make from old Crypto's News. I don't know. Yeah, Crypto's News. Omar, one of my first OG original crypto YouTubers, very early in Ethereum, very early with MakerDAO, has good takes on a lot of things. It's a great quote to keep in mind. The dollar will collapse, but putting a date on that is a fool's errand. Let's remember the old adage, the market can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent. And I think this is very important for us. Obviously, we lean bullish on Bitcoin. We can see the cracks in the financial system. We know its inevitable collapse is coming. We know it will be good for Bitcoin when it does. But to speak with certainty about when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, it is a fool's errand because we don't know. Like they have kicked this can down the road so many more times than we ever thought was possible. A lot of people would have told you 2008, 2009 was the end. A lot of people would have told you 2020 was the end, and it was impossible to kick it down any further. Now we're back here in the same situation, and it seems like it's impossible to kick the can down the road too much further than what they did just a few years ago. Yet here we are, we're still here, it's still happening. I think we did take bets on that, or at least joke about it, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. It's somewhere in that range. I feel like I don't think this can continue to go beyond 20 more years. That being said, if you put all of your eggs in the basket of the market returning to rationality much, too quickly, you're going to run out of money before the market actually returns to what is real, what is rational. And so that's one thing I've learned, at least from watching this stuff, is irrational as this market is absolute lunacy to put money in a place where you don't actually trust it. People you don't even believe in. Actually, you're putting money with your enemy, and a lot of this, situations between governments around the world, these are mortal enemies, people you hate. You're actually storing your future potential in their currency that they control 100%. As stupid as that sounds, don't think it's going to just stop overnight. Like everybody's going to wake up and it's going to be logical. You need to prepare yourself for when it does end, but no, it could continue to happen in a very irrational way for a very long time. That can be applied to all sorts of different things. Like when you can see something right versus wrong, you can see very clearly this is right. And the wrong thing is, the payoff for doing something wrong is going to come eventually. The consequences for those actions will come at some point. But if you try to pinpoint the exact date and time and how and when, you're most likely going to be wrong. You just need to err on the side of, look, I'm going to do what I know is right, what I believe to be true, what lines up with my values, and let everything else just fall, let the chips fall where they may, as the expression goes. And that's something very important for us as people that believe in Bitcoin to remember is, as insane as this financial system is, as ridiculous and ludicrous as it sounds, they can probably keep it going longer than we think they can. And that's something I felt like was worth mentioning. Yeah, field goal. It's good.
See?
So,
I love that.
There was a question. Manuel Dominguez, why does USDC keep unpegging from $1?
That has to do with Silicon Valley Bank. USDC unpegged when Silicon Valley Bank started going under, and $3 billion of the dollars that were supposed to be backing USDC were in that bank. And so basically people start running that math on, okay, if they're, with the market cap, I can't remember what it was $40 billion, something like that.
Yeah, they were missing $3 billion.
Right. If they were 40 billion, let's see, USDC, yeah, $35 billion. If they were missing, right here, this is the market cap. If the market cap is $35 billion for USDC, they're missing $3 billion. They could potentially recover whatever. Means if everybody withdrew their USDC, they'd only be able to repay 93 cents on the dollar, 94 cents on the dollar. Right now it's at 99 cents on the dollar. So people feel decent about their ability to repay only because basically the Fed, FDIC, the government has stepped in and says, we will make good on all of those withdrawals if they were ever to occur. Now, our preference is that they don't ever occur. Please don't anybody withdraw your money. But if you guys were going to withdraw it, we would cover it. And that's why, then it regains its peg on that confidence. But that basically the USDC showing cracks in the confidence, that really does reflect cracks in the confidence of the banking system in general. It's basically people saying, I don't feel safe that the money they're holding in banks is going to be there when we need it to be there. And the truth is, it won't be, because as soon as money goes in, as soon as money comes in the door to the bank, it goes right out.
It never is
that same day.
Yeah.
10x. They 10x it and then they send it out.
Exactly. And that is the problem with fractional reserve banking. It's the problem with where we are today. Again, we say it over and over, it used to be 10% was what was required to be held in reserves on bank. Like basically they had to hold 10% of the deposits on reserve. Now it's 0%. And for most banks, it's less than 1% that actually gets held in cash reserves for the daily operating. Ooh. Yeah, it's terrifying. When you think you think about it logically, it's like, wait, so I'm giving you $1,000. You're required to hold less than $100 of the money I'm giving you, but you're telling me you're going to give it back to me at any point in time. But if I was to ask for it, then you don't. Just none of it makes any sense. If anybody with basic elementary understanding of arithmetic could say this system will fail, and it will fail spectacularly. And like I said, the way Silicon Valley Bank was the one that had USDC. Silvergate Bank failed before that. Yeah. They both fail. And they're all, of course, they all have very similar names. Silvergate, Silicon Valley, Signature. They all sound very similar.
You know what's crazy?
What's that?
Mainstream public isn't even going to care.
They don't even hardly know.
Well, they barely know now, but they really won't care by Friday after all the political upheaval and all the angry people in politics get reminded to be distracted again by some court document coming out. Yeah. Everyone's just going to go right over their heads.
Yeah, so. Bud Lightyear said Trump indictment just happens to be when the banks crash. LOL.
Yeah. Exactly. There's always some big dramatic news for everybody to get all upset about when bank stuff is going on. Like I said, and all of this was happening in March of, when they changed all these other banking rules and regulations was between December 2019 and March 2020, which there was a lot of other news going on during that same time frame as well that had people very uninterested in what the banks were doing. We don't care. As long as there's money to do what we need to do, just let them do whatever the heck they want. We're not checking any math right now. We're just trying to survive. And that's the way they want you guys. So we will, let me see how we're doing on time. Oh, we're pretty good on time. All right, let me hit this real quick because this is tomorrow. So will the Fed stop rate hikes? 5 things to know in Bitcoin this week. After a week of chaos for macro markets and solid gains as a result, Bitcoin and altcoins are circling levels which some have not seen for 9 months. That's crazy to think how quickly we got back up to 28K. This week, there are all sorts of potential hurdles to overcome. The Federal Reserve will decide on its next interest rate changes, and the new macroeconomic data will drop. At the same time, Bitcoin's own ecosystem is set to become stronger than ever as network fundamentals launch to fresh all-time highs. He's probably talking about hash rate there, which again, and usability rate, cards, all this other stuff we were talking about earlier in the show. The macro event of this week is undeniably the March 22nd Fed decision on interest rate hikes or lack of them. Again, that's not tomorrow, it's Wednesday. The unfolding bank crisis has put into doubt the Fed's ability to keep rising interest rates, policy which commentators argue was the death knell. The death knell? for struggling
weird.
regional banks.
Yeah.
The Fed is nonetheless caught between a rock and a hard place. Raising rates would keep inflation in check, but further punish the economy, possibly unleashing a new wave of bank failures.
Do it.
Basically, yeah, odds at leaning towards 25 basis points, which is a wild card, planning on longing minus 50 basis as the safe play. So here they are. According to the CME Fed Watch tool, consensus as of March 20th favored the Fed's hiking 25 basis points rather than pausing hikes altogether. The week prior, Goldman Sachs has predicted that the rate hikes would plateau, while Norma even forecasts a rate cut.
Yeah, split.
Yeah,
split
everybody's
room.
all over. I think we have, is it here? Yeah, here we go. Norma, this is from Caleb Franzen. We've covered a lot of his stuff, but Norma's predicting a cut, Goldman predicting a pause, Morgan predicting a hike. Even the experts, quote unquote, have no clue and can't find consensus. Normally you see them all kind of on the same page.
Yeah.
He's referencing the same chart there. So for what it's worth, Fed Watch tool is currently 35% chance of a pause, 65% chance of a 0.25% rate hike. I still do lean on the rate hike. I'd say it's probably pretty close. I mean, obviously it's 35-65. I'd say it's probably close to 50-50 on 0.25 or none at all. I still think they have to do 0.25 to try to hold some form of composure through all of this stuff, because obviously if the market here, like the first sign of trouble, if the Fed pivots from what they were doing, the market's going to go crazy knowing like, okay, well, they'll backstop it all, take on as much risk as you possibly can, which is good for things like Bitcoin. It's good for people like us. I mean, here's real quick. Look how quickly the market reacts. The market 10 days ago, 100 basis points of hikes are still to come. Rates will be higher longer. That was the sentiment just 10 days ago. The market today, tightening's over. No more hikes. The Fed cuts in September of 2023. Look at all this stuff. Look at these are the yields changing. It happened extremely quickly. But let me come back and finish up some of this story here.
Whoa.
God, I love that.
Kobesi and others also queried how struggling bank stocks would react at the next Wall Street Open given the latest government moves over the weekend. These included a buyout of Credit Suisse, the European banking giant, which saw a particularly violent reaction to the U.S. meltdown. Credit Suisse was worth $10 billion a month ago and sold for pennies on the dollar. Continued about fellow bank UBS purchasing Credit Suisse and getting $100 billion in government liquidity. And that's what it's all about right there. It's not as much about saving the failing bank as it is getting the government to cover all the bad loans. Like, sure, we'll take on all these bad loans that could potentially make us some money. As long as you tell us you'll take on all of the potential downside, we will capture any potential upside. And if it goes bad, you guys are all on the line. We don't have to do anything. Yeah. And that's what the Fed does. That's how it operates.
God, can we just get 50 base points and grab like 5% of derivatives? You know what I mean? Like if they have to go up to 50 base points and light that candle again, that'd be so good for us as a crypto industry in general. I mean, it'd be painful to begin with. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I just hope for chaos.
Yeah, all eyes will be on that meeting on Wednesday. Like I said, I still tend to think we see a small raise because I don't think it would actually break the system now that they've got these other things in place, and it would at least posture at some sense of reality from the people making these decisions, knowing like, look, we can't just do whatever the banks want so they continue to make more money. Like, it's not working. We have to at least raise a little bit more and then maintain it for some period of time. Otherwise, inflation is going to get out of control, which is supposed to be the job of the Fed, is to keep that inflation in check. But I mean, when you look at these graphs at how quick this stuff breaks, it says, "Good morning, everyone. The Fed discount window borrowing provides liquidity and stability to the banking system," meaning free money, basically reaches an all-time high, even higher than of 2008. Probably nothing.
Oh yeah.
So like you look at this chart, I mean, it's just, so here's 2008, what they did to keep everything rolling. Then they didn't do anything for a while there. Then boom, 2020, we need to do something to keep all this rolling. We need to borrow some money. And then over the weekend, boom. Now there is a graph, a broken chart for you guys. If I've ever saw one, the amount of billions of US dollars, coming into the market right now. So if you're wondering why Bitcoin pumped, there it is right there. There's the chart. So it feels great. It's great if you're in Bitcoin. It's great in assets if you contrll on your own.
Viagra to risk assets right there. Look at this. It chooses violence with these types of graphs.
It's ready, and it doesn't want to hear anything other than go time from any of the other. It's risk on markets for sure.
Bobby Dial
it's-
says this looks like the hex chart.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh my
Yeah,
God.
could be. Looks like someone's printer went offline at that point. Yeah, it just starts printing, and that's again money printer go burr. We've talked about it. Drew early on in this show for months talked about needing that the Fed is going to need help from the Treasury.
Yeah.
We're starting to see some of those actions playing out right now. The Fed's having to back off what they're wanting to do more swaps, print more money, basically keep liquidity going so that way when scared people want to withdraw, there's something that are withdraw so that more people don't get scared. Because that's really all it is. Again, it's a confidence game through and through. We're seeing it over and over. It will be a fun week for sure to see what happens. Like I said, I think we hold. I think a lot of the air gets let out of the balloon that we're seeing in the market right now. People go back to, oh, it's crashing, we're going back down, like wait, this is all a bull trap, wait for lower lows, which is just crazy to me how fast, if we're at 25K, it's a bull trap, wait for lower lows. We're at 28K, everybody's talking about $1 million again, which just blows my mind. We're not going to see $1 million this year, guys. I'm sorry.
Calm down.
Yeah, if that happens, if we see $1 million in 90 days and the banking system collapse and hyperinflation of the US dollar, it's going to be a bad time for every single one of you guys out there. It's not going to be fun. There's going to be a lot of fear. There's going to be a lot of terror. There's going to be a lot of taking care of your loved ones and tracking down water and resources. And, again, it gets very Walking Dead or more timely, The Last of Us. It gets very much into that world very quickly, which again, if you don't have some survival, I don't have a ton of survival skills. I've got a lot of friends that have survival
we're
skills.
friends with Drew.
Yeah,
so.
I mean that is having a good network is
Dude,
part of the
people are
survival
gonna
skill.
hate me in that situation. You ever saw Negan? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's a reason why
no.
Negan existed in the way he did. Things get. And I was talking. My wife's like, "Gosh, you're so hard on the kids all the time," and I'm like, "I don't have time for discussion with them. I don't have time for negotiation with 4 toddlers." So
Well, let's hope the world ends.
no,
That'll be-
I
We don't
don't.
want the
I
world
want
to
them to have a good world, but you got to be prepared just in case.
And look at that. What a coincidence. We're right at 420 viewers right now. Couldn't ask for anything better. If every single one of you stop what you're doing and hit the like button on the way out. If you're watching, you can close. If you're watching on mobile, you can close the live chat, hit the like button, come right back in. You'll see everything that's going on. We love
TJ's chicken salad said, "Look at me up there."
Yeah, look at me up here. There you go, Hudson. Get in there. Get in on that chicken salad. It's a good time. We love all of you guys. Shout out to Darthman, Crypto Stevo, El Profe Manuel Rosas, Gary's Guzzler, Mike Bennett, TJ's Chicken Salad in the chat. Yo, I'm happy to make another appearance, y'all. Fluffy the Sheep, Crypto Stevo, B&J Outdoors. We got Mama Crypto, Bud Lightyear, Dude What Does Mine Say, Mainly Crypto, Razzmatazz, Casino Doggy, White Rabbit, Mr. Techno Goody, Crypto Totoro, Manawak, Chemistry Bro. We love all of you guys. Quads are lit. These purple ones are really hard to read. Evan Coons, Joey Daniel, Corey Harden. We love all of you guys. Hope you have a great day. We should go raid Joel if we can. He's playing some fun games right now. That's what we can all do. Look, if the world ends, we always have video games, right?
That's
We can always
right.
just sit there, and as long as our generator's working and
Bread and
pretend
circuses.
it's nice outside. So
Bread
love
It
all
is
you guys.
nice outside.
We'll see you guys
so
tomorrow.
Have a nice day.
Let's go Bitcoin.